Welcome to NFL Nexus, where we dive deep into the biggest stories shaking up the league. And folks, today we are tackling one of the most fascinating, high-stakes situations in the entire NFL, the absolute mess that is the Indianapolis Colts quarterback room. Look, for any team, the quarterback is everything. He's the sun your entire solar system revolves around. You get that position right, you're playing for Super Bowls. But if you get it wrong, you get stuck in what we call quarterback purgatory. And trust me, that is a miserable place to be, just years of mediocrity with no easy way out. And that is exactly where the Colts, a team used to having legends under center, find themselves today. It's so wild because they have two guys who could be franchise players on their roster, and somehow that's left them with zero certainty. So how on earth did they get here, and is there any way out?
This quote right here from Colts GM Chris Ballard, this is the perfect place to start. It's just a masterclass in what we call GM speak. Saying a whole lot without really saying anything at all. Let's break it down, read between the lines. We've had some calls. Okay, that's the public confirmation. He's telling every fan, and more importantly, every other team, yep, the rumors are true. Our former top 5 pick, Anthony Richardson, is available. But then the second part, nothing's come to fruition at this time. Now that's the real message. He's talking directly to the other 31 GMs, and what he's saying is, your offers stink. They're not even close. See, Ballard is signaling he is not going to be backed into a corner here. This isn't just a negotiation. It's a high-stakes poker game being played through the media. And this one little sentence is the first move in a game that's going to decide the next decade of Colts football. And yeah, that really is the million-dollar question, isn't it? How does a team with a number 4 overall pick, a guy you bet the whole farm on, and a veteran QB you just paid $88 million, how do you end up with more questions than answers? I mean, on paper, this should be a dream scenario for a front office, a position of incredible strength. You've got the young gun learning from the proven vet, but for the Colts, it's turned into a total nightmare. It's the perfect storm of uncertainty. You have one quarterback who is physically 100% ready to go, but mentally wants nothing to do with the team, and another who is all in mentally, but is trying to come back from one of the most brutal injuries in all of sports. So in this explainer, we're going to pick apart every single piece of this puzzle, the unhappy prospect, the high-price gamble, and the massive choice that's hanging over this entire organization.
Okay, let's start with the first half of this crisis. The young, unbelievably talented, and now very, very unhappy prospect, Anthony Richardson. When the Colts drafted this guy, he wasn't just the future. He was supposed to completely change their offense. I mean, his mix of size, a rocket for an arm, and elite speed, that was supposed to be the engine for this team for the next 10, 15 years. He was the cornerstone. But somewhere along the way, that foundation just completely cracked. The relationship went south, and now the Colts are staring down the very real, very painful possibility of losing a player with a stratospheric ceiling before he ever really got the chance to take off. It doesn't get any more official or any more serious than this. A formal trade request that takes this whole situation out of the world of rumors and whispers and slams it down into cold, hard reality. Look, this isn't just some agent leaking stuff to the media to get a little leverage in a contract talk. No, this is the player, through his official reps, telling the organization flat out, I am done here, I'm not playing for you anymore. And that move, it just fundamentally changes everything. It forces Chris Ballard's hand. Any tiny little bit of hope that they could patch things up, gone. The conversation is no longer about reconciliation. It's about asset management. The question isn't if they'll trade him anymore. It's when, where, and for what. To really get the weight of this trade request, you have to just stop and think about this number, 4. The 4th overall pick in the 2023 NFL Draft. Guys taken this high are supposed to be saviors. They're the pillars you build your entire franchise around. Teams pour years of scouting, millions of dollars, and all the hopes and dreams of a fan base into a top 5 pick. So for a player with that kind of draft status to demand a trade just a couple of seasons into his first contract, that is almost unheard of. It tells you there's been a massive breakdown somewhere, in communication, in trust, something. It signals a level of dysfunction you just don't see very often, even in the crazy world of the NFL. And this right here is the question, isn't it? Why would a young quarterback with all this God-given talent want to hit the eject button on the very team that invested so heavily in him? Well, the thing is, it's not just one thing. It's been a slow burn of frustration building over time. It's a story about injuries hitting at the absolute worst times, about inconsistent chances to prove what he can do, and then, ultimately, it was about a huge financial signal from the front office that, in his mind, told him they were moving on. Let's break down the key things that got us to this point. Okay, let's unpack this file, because the context here is everything. The straw that broke the camel's back for Richardson? No doubt, it was the team giving that massive $88 million deal to Daniel Jones. That was the point of no return. But the pressure had been building for a long time. His career has just been this frustrating cycle of stop and start. He'd show you these flashes of why he was the fourth pick, and then bam, an injury would knock him out, killing any momentum. That freak eye injury that wiped out his whole 2025 season is the biggest example, but it's part of a pattern. And this last point here is really the whole issue. In 3 full seasons in the NFL, he's only started 15 games. 15. That's not even a full season. Now, from the team's side, it's almost impossible to build around a guy who's never on the field. But from Richardson's side, he probably feels like the team just lost faith in him because of some bad luck that was out of his control. All right, so now we got to flip the coin and talk about the other guy at the center of this, the man whose contract basically sparked this whole fire, Daniel Jones. To get what the Colts are thinking here, you have to remember the arc of Jones's career. With the Giants, he was a total roller coaster. Moments of genius mixed with just head-scratching turnovers. But in that one full season in Indy, he finally put it all together. And so, the Colts' move here wasn't just a simple re-signing. They made a massive, franchise-altering bet on a player with a shaky history who was, at that very moment, recovering from a catastrophic injury. It's a move that's either going to be remembered as a stroke of genius or a total disaster. The timing of this is what's truly wild. The Colts didn't just re-sign Daniel Jones. They gave him a huge extension after he tore his right Achilles tendon in Week 14. For those who don't know, this is one of the most feared injuries in sports, but it's especially terrifying for a quarterback. So much of their power and accuracy comes from being able to plant that back foot and drive through a throw. Tearing that anchor point can literally end a career. Oh, and to make it even worse, he was also dealing with a broken fibula on his other leg, so he's rehabbing 2 major leg injuries at once. And yet, the Colts saw enough in him to decide that he, not their former number 4 pick, was the guy. And this is the size of that bet. $88 million over 2 years. Let's be crystal clear about what this means. This is not some cheap, prove you're healthy kind of deal. At $44 million a year, this contract pays him like a top-tier, legit franchise quarterback. It's the front office screaming from the rooftops, "You are our guy. This is your team." And it's the number that effectively slammed the door shut on Anthony Richardson's future in Indy and kicked off this entire crisis.
So let's walk through this timeline because it really shows you the Colts' logic. First, the injury happens in Week 14, and it tragically cut short what was turning into a career year for Jones. He was on pace for personal bests in pretty much every category. Then, the stunner. While he's still in the very early, painful stages of recovery, the Colts hand him that $88 million contract. They're betting on the person just as much as the player. Since then, by all accounts, his rehab has been off the charts. Head coach Shane Steichen calls it tireless and phenomenal. He's describing a guy who's at the team facility from sunup to sundown every single day, just attacking his recovery. And you're starting to see the results. Just 4.5 months after surgery, he's already throwing and, get this, doing quarterback dropbacks. For an Achilles tear, that is a huge milestone and way, way ahead of schedule. Now, this quote is fascinating. It gives us a little peek behind the curtain at how the Colts are making this decision. They're not just crossing their fingers and listening to their own doctors. They're doing their homework across the entire sports world. Coach Steichen actually called up Boston Celtics president Brad Stevens. Why? Because Celtics superstar Jason Tatum had the exact same injury, went to the exact same surgeon, and made an incredibly fast and full recovery. This just shows a level of creative thinking you don't always see. And Steichen's big takeaway wasn't just about the medical side. It was that Tatum's work ethic during his rehab was legendary, and he sees that same obsessive, relentless drive in Daniel Jones. It's a powerful comparison that obviously made the Colts feel like they weren't just gambling, they were making a calculated risk. So we've looked at the two problems separately, right? You have the unhappy young guy with all the talent in the world, and you have the expensive, injured veteran who's had success in your building. Now let's see what happens when you throw these two explosive situations into the same room. This is where the real migraine starts for the front office, because two different problems are merging into one giant, franchise-defining crisis. It's like two trains speeding toward each other on the same track. This chart just lays out the impossible puzzle the Colts are trying to solve. On one side, you've got Anthony Richardson. His status? He's publicly demanding to be traded, which creates a media frenzy. His commitment? 0. He's out. But his availability? He's medically cleared, 100% ready to play, so he is completely able but totally unwilling. Then you flip the coin to Daniel Jones. His status? He's grinding through a brutal daily rehab. His commitment? It's locked in for $88 million. He is the centerpiece. But his availability? Well, that's the huge multi-million-dollar question mark, isn't it?
He's hoping to be ready for training camp, but even the GM, Chris Ballard, has said nothing is guaranteed. So you have your new franchise QB who is 100% willing, but for now is unable. It is the very definition of a catch-22. And if you're looking for the safety net in all this, well, you can stop looking. There isn't one. There is no plan C. If the absolute worst-case scenario plays out, let's say Jones's recovery hits a wall and Richardson gets traded, who steps in to take snaps for the Colts? The number 3 quarterback on the depth chart is Riley Leonard. He was a 6th-round pick in the 2025 draft. His entire NFL career consists of one start. One. And it was in a meaningless Week 18 game after the team was already knocked out of the playoffs. I mean, to go from having 2 potential franchise guys to possibly starting a late-round rookie with basically 0 experience, that is a terrifying freefall. It's the kind of doomsday scenario that gives GMs and coaches nightmare. So this is where it all comes crashing together. This is the minefield that GM Chris Ballard has to walk through right now. You have a high-value asset in Richardson, who should be a pillar of your team, but is instead a huge distraction. You have an $88 million investment in Jones, whose body might end up betraying him and the team. Your only insurance policy is a rookie with 1 game under his belt. I mean, every single door you could open leads to a different kind of risk. There's no safe play here. And the decision he makes next isn't just going to affect the 2026 season. It could set the franchise back for years, or, if he nails it, launch them into being a true contender. The pressure is just astronomical.
And so that brings us here. The Colts are at a massive fork in the road. As you can see, there are 2 very different paths they can take, and they lead to 2 vastly different futures for this team. They can't walk down both. A choice has to be made. And whatever choice they make is going to send ripples through every single part of that organization, from the locker room to the coach's job security to the fans in the stands. There is no easy answer, and once they pick a path, there's no turning back.
At the end of the day, this is what it all boils down to. This isn't about finding a safe option, because a safe option just doesn't exist here. This is about choosing which risk you'd rather live with. It's about deciding which gamble you, as a franchise, are more comfortable taking. You know, put yourself in the GM's chair for a second. Do you bet on modern medicine, on rehab, and on a guy you know has played well in your system? Or do you cash in your chip, trade the young guy, and bet on the mystery box of a trade package? Let's break down this ultimate bet. Okay, path number 1, you trust the veteran Daniel Jones. The risk is huge. The history of the NFL is filled with quarterbacks who had major leg injuries and were just never the same player again. If that Achilles injury permanently robs him of his mobility and his power, the Colts are stuck with an $88 million contract for a guy who can't play at that level anymore. That is a salary cap disaster that can cripple your team for years. But the reward? Man, if he comes back strong, you've got your proven leader locked in and you can build a real contender around him. Now, path number 2, you trade the prospect Anthony Richardson. The risk here is the kind of what-if that haunts a franchise for decades. You could be trading away the next Patrick Mahomes. Watching a guy you drafted and gave up on become a superstar on another team is a mistake a GM might never live down. But the reward is real, and it's immediate. You could get a haul of high draft picks, maybe a first-rounder, maybe more, that lets you totally rebuild your roster either around Jones or the next young quarterback you go after. And that leads us to the final question, the philosophical choice at the very heart of this whole mess. Right now, by trying to hang on to both guys, by trying to juggle this impossible situation, the Colts are dealing with 2 massive competing uncertainties every single day. If they just make a choice, one way or the other, they could at least funnel all that risk down a single path. So is one uncertain future really better than being paralyzed by 2? The Indianapolis Colts have to figure that out, and the clock is ticking. Thanks for watching this deep dive here in NFL Nexus. If you found this breakdown helpful, do us a huge favor and hit that subscribe button, give the video a like, and please let us know what you think in the comments. What should the Colts do? Trade Richardson or bet on Jones? Also, if you're looking for a great activity for any football fans in your family, you can help support the channel by grabbing one of our coloring books. They're perfect for kids, grandkids, even adults. You can find them using the link in the description or by scanning the QR code on your screen right now. Your support really does help us keep making content just like this. We'll see you in the next breakdown.